Today for Wildstorm Wednesday, guys, I just want to preview this real quick. We're going to really get into the dirt of why everything in front of your screen right now, the highest selling comic book of all time, as some people say, we don't say it here, and Uncanny X-Men 281, its counterpart, why this is the end of the X-Men. And anyway, we got to go over a couple points that the comic book world misses with these two issues, with this time of the X-Men. I'm going to lay it out for you guys. So let's go. What is up, my AKAPADers? Peter ate the Luca here. You guys know the drill. Known throughout Philadelphia, PA, Europe, and the vast multiverse as your eclectic one. It's Wildstorm Wednesday. I am so proud to bring you guys another episode. And if you're new here, here's what it is. Jim Lee, highly influential. Maybe we can argue the most influential form to come into American comic books ever. Isn't that a broad statement? Well, look, on Wednesdays, we get into this on a very micro and macro scale. We study Jim Lee's Wildstorm Productions. We study him, all his contemporaries, all the people that came through his company, and even, well, all that silliness he's up to today. So, guys, here we go. It's Wildstorm Wednesday. I can't wait to bring it to you guys. Rock and roll. Let's hit that video. So let's just say something, AKAPADers, that we have to be honest about this. There is way too much attention, focus on this X-Men #1. This issue to me, as I've grown older, it's revealed itself to be absolute nonsense. This to me, and I want to say, maybe from like the first time I read it, because we were there, October 1991, right? This to me read as a retelling of Pride of the X-Men, the aired one time animated pilot. It got released on VHS. It was not a bootleg. It was pretty much always available, like, officially, right? This, to me, always was Pride of the X-Men. And X-Men #1, we want to talk about Chris Claremont leaving the book, Jim Lee and Homage Studios, like, taking over. Mark Silvestri's on Wolverine. Rob Liefeld's on X-Force. So the Image guys run Marvel. They run the highest selling of all of their franchises. Fantastic Four is nothing. Avengers is nothing. All of this malarkey. But we get this thing here where it's like the prophecy of X-Men #1. And the prophecy of X-Men #1 is that we're on asteroid M. And Magneto has nukes. And he's somewhat immortal. Because he's using these acolytes. He's using the powers of the acolytes to, like, bring him back to life, to sustain him, because he's injured. Right? Like, the prophecy of Asteroid M. This is the true breaking of the X-Men franchise. This never really happens. And I emphasize this because here's the wild thing, AKAPADers. People wanted this to happen. But they wanted to come out of X-Men. Never did. Because one of the reasons for that is Claremont essentially gets excommunicated out by Jim Lee. Jim Lee uses the power that he has at this time in Marvel. They bumped this guy out. But these two were, even at the time, collaborating to do something at Image. That book was The Huntsman. That never came out. That Huntsman eventually did end up in Homage Studios, in Wildcats, and in Cyberforce. We profiled that on Wildstorm Wednesday. So here's the thing. So we get this, like, failure, right? This absolute failure. It's a great issue 1, though, guys. But it's a failure of a series. And then we get the other guy from Homage Studios, Whilce Portacio, who does his absolute best to wrap up the Australian years of the X-Men. Incredible beginning. Look, fresh upstart. I love that title. Incredible, like, first couple pages where Portacio here, Mr. Wetworks, the Reavers, the Ravagers, the cybernetic mother effers that go through the X-Men, they contend with the X-Men guys. They get their asses handed to them by, well, super-powered, also indestructible Sentinels, which is what we get on this cover. Here's the wild thing, AKA Powders. I never liked the cover for Uncanny X-Men 281 because I always felt like Colossus here was like dick punching the Sentinel. This doesn't scream, right? And we say like a new team is born, but a new team isn't born because we have Jean Grey on two separate teams in the same month. What's going on? Here's what happens. Let's just spoil it. Because I think Chris Claremont knows. He feels like the beat. There's some writing on the wall. Despite what he has said in interviews and in official, like unofficial capacities, let's just read the tea leaves. Brave news start with X-Men 1. Like the type of number 1, the type of start where legends are reborn, like lives up to it. We want to say Claremont knows that his time on Uncanny X-Men might be over, so he wraps up this giant epic, which is here, which is in some of these volumes. I don't have them all, but Essential X-Men Volume 6, Essential X-Men Volume 9, Essential X-Men Volume 10. These editions here, when we know them, when you know the gospel, Claremont does his best to wrap up what we can call the Mark Silvestri years of the X-Men. Okay? And we get all these like nonsensical plot thread tie-ups. Some of them make sense, some of them don't. I don't want to analyze that. But what we're doing here is we're reformatting the book. We're trying to reboot the book in real time. This is before people knew about reboots and any of that fun stuff. But here's the other crazy, like, trivia part to all of this. No one can tell you. If you went into, like, a comic shop, if you went into a comic convention, talked to fans of the X-Men, and you asked them what happens in this issue, they wouldn't be able to tell you. They maybe would be able to explain why it's important, because Wikipedia, they can Google it. But if you ask them what happened before and what was the cover before, they won't be able to answer it. And we have this. 280 and 281. Why are we talking about 280? Well, this is the Mere Island saga. This is Kubert here. So when Kubert, like, takes over X-Men, everyone acted, like, shocked. Like, how could he take over X-Men? You know, this is a little bit down the road. This is like a year and a half down the road. Like, this guy takes it over. But we're essentially, we have the Shadow King here. It's Professor Xavier. It's his son. The end and the beginning, right? So we even, like, the segue from this going into 281, it doesn't land. But this cover here is effectively the end of the Jim Lee Uncanny X-Men era. So we get back to 281, and the X-Men are at the Hellfire Club. And we have a little bit of a power struggle within the Hellfire Club. We have the White Queen trying to get assassinated. Like, you know, White Queen, like, just flips out. She's like, this is like the third time this week. And then we get like Fitzroy. Fitzroy eventually is going to seize power, but you know, like he's hanging out, he's making threats, he's pissing people off. Fitzroy too, fantastic character. And then we get this, and this is how you know. This is how you know Chris Claremont just got his ass handed to him. Because when we go through, like, just volume 9 is really the best volume of all of the Essential X-Men, guys. There is, and in this volume, he's worked with multiple high-end artists. Multiple. There is a structured continuity panel to panel. Every single page, every single panel is structured. It's thought out. There's sometimes you can like hear the conversations, and it gets more convoluted as Jim Lee gets involved. It really does. Things just don't make sense, like this whole Psylocke business. Things just hang there. But Claremont like fights through with it, right? I mean, he effectively does another 2 volumes worth of Essential X-Men. So here, we don't want to draw the X-Men at the Hellfire Club in their suits and dresses. This is Colossus. This is Archangel, okay? Like, who the fuck wants to draw guys like, who wants to draw a bunch of a-holes in penguin suits? So what Homage Studios does, everyone just zaps into their costumes. Because a fight needs to happen. Because we don't know what to do anymore when we're given a plot from our writer. We just don't. All Out War, heroes and villains, Fitzroy, like, showing up. But we see, like, just visually where the Image style and the Homage Studio style, it kind of has a point. Because Fitzroy here, with the Kirby crackle and, right, Bastion here, like, busting through the wall. He's, like, teleporting because of Gateway. If you guys don't know who Gateway is, he's the most significant character to come out of the Australian years. Where the hell is Gateway? Well, anyway, he transports, and the Sentinels are pursuing him. Oh, here's Gateway. So, yeah, he runs into Gateway. I mean, guys, again, arguments for the Image era. Look at the layouts for this page, right? There's flashes of genius here. But then, like, he's running, he's being pursued, and you kind of know what's happening. Like, Lady Deathstrike is here. Like, you kind of want to say that was just a note, because we gotta keep track of Lady Deathstrike. They end up at the Hellfire Club. They're fighting the Hellions here, which are like their version of the X. So it's like you have the Hellfire Club as an institution, and then you have the Xavier Institute, the X-Men Mansion, essentially, or the Xavier School as an institute. The warriors of those institutes is the X-Men on one side and the Hellions on the other. So they clash. But, yeah, we get zapped out of portals. And then at the end here, I mean, again, posterized moments. Yeah, Jean Grey just destroys a couple of these things. Jean Grey dies at the end. She dies at the end. So it's like, okay. It's the most confusing, unsatisfying issue of X-Men maybe ever. If you go from Giant Size X-Men to 281, this is truly the crack code, because we have a major plot element in X-Men #1 that doesn't really get fulfilled that people wanted, and then we just get absolute chaos with Uncanny X-Men 281. It was, and they'll pretend that the fall of the X-Men happened much later. It didn't, guys. Because they never got a good story. Like, here's the wild thing. They never got an ass-kicking storyline from this point on. They had some good ones. Like the Gen X theft, the Phalanx Covenant comes to mind. They never really got it, which is wild. Anyway, guys. Happy Wildstorm Wednesday.